And, CNN New York Times had to apologize for a major error. Not apologize. They don't apologize. They had to retract. Remember when they claimed that 17 various intelligence agencies had agreed that Trump and Russia had colluded to affect the election to harm Hillary Clinton? Well, they had to walk that back while we were away. And it turns out it's only 3 intelligence agencies, all run by Clapper. The New York Times published a story on Sunday. I don't have the dates here, but this is in the last 2 weeks. The date of this story is it might have been 3 days ago that this happened. The Times published this when I'm away. The days run together, so I follow the news every day, and some days I can figure out it happened when I wasn't here, and some days it was. But I think this happened over the 4th of July break. The New York Times published a story Sunday titled "Trump's Deflections and Denials on Russia Frustrate Even His Allies." They overstated the number of U.S. intelligence agencies involved in a January 6 assessment, concluding the Russians interfered in the election to benefit Trump. The Times story originally included this line: "The latest presidential tweets were proof to dismayed members of Trump's party that he still refuses to acknowledge a basic fact agreed upon by 17 American intelligence agencies that he now oversees. Russia orchestrated the attacks and did it to help him get elected." The story back on January 6th was how Trump is so obstinate and stupid that he won't even admit that that's what happened. That was entirely bogus. The whole thing, there's not a word of truth in that story. Trump did not oversee the election or collude with Putin. There is no evidence Putin wanted Hillary to lose or Trump to win. There's no evidence of any of that. Smart thinking on Putin says that he doesn't care who wins. He's going to deal with us as an enemy entity anyway. But regardless, there isn't any evidence of any of that, and there never has been. And the Times, in order to buttress the lie, throws in that 17 American intelligence agencies agreed with the premise that Russia orchestrated the attacks and did it to help Trump. The figure is not accurate, the Times said Sunday. The January 6th hacking assessment was a conclusion drawn by analysts representing 3 intelligence agencies acting under the aegis of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, as James Clapper, and he testified to this on May 8th. So CNN had to retract, and AP had to do the same thing because they reported the same thing. So there were not 17 intelligence agencies, but from January until just a few days ago, the news was that 17 different American intelligence agencies all agreed that Russia orchestrated the attacks on the election, did it to help Trump get elected, and he knew about it. It is a lie that has been repeated in hundreds of media articles and television broadcasts about the so-called Russian collusion. In reality, James Clapper had 3 analysts who agreed with him, not even 3 agencies, 3 analysts who agreed, and it got reported as 17 separate intel agencies. Al Franken was questioning Clapper. Franken didn't like what he was hearing. There were only 3 agencies that directly involved this assessment, plus my office, Clapper said. Franken said, but all 17 signed on to that, right? Clapper said, sensitivity of the information, we decided it was a conscious judgment to restrict it just to those 3. No, there weren't 17. January to May 8th, everybody in the drive-by media had reported. It's all falling apart now, folks. It's what I meant by last Thursday and Friday when I thought the momentum had shifted and the worm was turning. And what happened to CNN with this video is evidence of the worm turning. It's evidence of the momentum shifting. There's another piece of fake news that was out there. Did you remember the story? It was over the weekend again. Maybe I don't know how much attention you paid. There was a story that the Pence team, the Mike Pence, vice president's team in the West Wing, was feeling a lot of friction with the president's team, and they wanted out, and they wanted no part of it, and they were creating distance, and they were embarrassed. The vice president's team did everything they could to avoid interaction with the president's team because it was just unseemly, it was chaos, it was out of control over there. That has been debunked. In exclusive comments to Breitbart News Saturday, Press Secretary for Pence, Mark Lauder, pushed back against claims from 6 Republican sources that there is division between Trump and Pence teams. He says there is none, that the whole thing is fake news. You want another example of fake news? Folks, I'm here to CNN is literally disintegrating. I don't even know if they're aware of it. I think they live in such a befuddled surreality that they've created for themselves that I don't think they have the ability to be embarrassed and humiliated to the degree that they should be. Do you remember there was a report? CNN reported a meeting. It was a meeting between the EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt and the CEO of Dow Chemicals, Andrew Liveris. And the story alleged that some kind of impropriety happened as a result of the meeting, the EPA Administrator meeting with the Dow Chemicals CEO. And obviously, it was something about climate change and polluting the planet, and how the Trump administration was secretly meeting with Dow to allow them to continue to pollute, lifting regulations. That was what was implied. A Breitbart News investigation uncovered that no such meetings ever took place. The Senate Intelligence Committee, the story said the Senate Intelligence Committee was investigating the meeting. It isn't. The Senate Intelligence Committee is not investigating it. The Treasury Department had already, at the urging of Senator Pocahontas, to look into the issue and had been found to be no merit whatsoever. Under the headline, EPA chief met with Dow CEO before deciding on pesticide ban, the AP's Michael B. Secker alleged that some super-secret covert meeting occurred between Pruitt and Liveris, and that awful things came as a result of the meeting. In fact, no meeting ever happened. Some source just made it up and lied about it to the AP, and the AP ran with it. This is CNN level. This is the kind of scandal CNN has become accustomed to. This stuff now is bleeding. CNN's bleeding over into the AP, and what's happening at CNN starting to happen at other places. And here's another story. The Associated Press walks back several Trump-Russia stories. In stories published April 6th, June the 2nd, June 26th, and June 29th, the Associated Press reported that all 17 U.S. intelligence agencies have agreed that Russia tried to influence the election to benefit Donald Trump. That assessment was based on information collected by 3 agencies and published by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Not all 17 agencies were involved in reaching the assessment. Now, AP and CNN both reported that error for many months and then had to walk it back. And it's just the beginning of what's going to have to be a lot of other corrections or deletions or whatever they're called. Now, folks, I don't know if Trump does this consciously or if he has a sixth sense. But one of the goals of tweeting out that wrestling video that he found that the kid had created where he's body slamming CNN. I don't know how much of this is strategic with Trump or how much of it is instinctive. But what he ends up doing is humiliating and embarrassing these people just by using his sense of humor and just by going after them. and laughing at them and poking fun at them and cracking wise about their lack of integrity. And what he does, he ends up illustrating the sheer hypocrisy of media. And whether he intended to do it or whether it was just his instinct, whether it was strategy, it works. And then CNN falls for the trap, if that's what it is, by using all of their resources to track down this poor kid, a private citizen, and threaten him because he made a joke that they didn't like because it was about them. This is happening amidst all of these media people retracting all of these Russia-Trump stories all over the past weekend. So Trump is exposing them. And this is what fighting back against them looks like, folks. I keep saying it. I'm going to probably need to keep saying it. Because, to some people, the tweets and the focusing of attention on the media does appear to some to be unpresidential. Some people say, why can't this stay above it? Why not just ignore it? Trump has long had a philosophy, if you attack him, he's going to hit back. And it hasn't changed just because he's president. In fact, he said it is presidential now. This is the modern American presidency. You want to do battle. If you're the president and you're going to have the entire media apparatus of Washington, D.C. come after you, you're going to have to do something about it. You can't sit there as George W. Bush did and his father before him. You can't just sit there and ignore it anymore. You just can't. If they're going to lie about you, it was one thing if the coverage was, for the most part, rooted in at least a foundation of fact. But once that goes out the window, once they start manufacturing it and making it up, and once they've got all these Obama and Clinton embeds remaining in various levels of government who can call anybody in the media and lie about anything, the old days of ignoring it and staying above it are out the window. You have to fight back against it because they are trying to destroy Trump. People say, he just should ignore it. Just focus on the agenda. Folks, he's doing both. A story here I saved, saw it over the break. It is from it's a Wall Street Journal. Could Trump really be draining the swamp? The water appears to be receding at key Beltway bureaucracies. Apparently, Rex Tillerson is vacuuming people out of the State Department. Not being reported, and that is a swamp. Let me tell you, the State Department is a swamp, and it does need to be hoovered. And apparently, Rex Tillerson is doing it. And it's happening at EPA as well. So while Trump has got these media people focused on themselves and him, what if this? I'm going to hold that thought because I have to take a break.